name's Esmeralda Barahona, and I'm glad that you're with us here today. I was just thinking about the story about Abraham. You know, when Abraham was told by God to go, he didn't know where he was going. He just obeyed the voice of the Lord. And that's awesome to think that we can just, when God speaks, say, okay, let's go. But many of us are not like that. And are we supposed to be? Does God lead the same way he led Abraham? Is that true for us today also? What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to wait for a big plan to unfold? Or do we really just go when he tells us to go, not knowing the way Abraham did? Now, Abraham was blessed as a result. I mean, he was not only blessed in his own personal life, but we continue to be blessed as a result of his obedience. And so we still are left with many questions about what we're to do when God speaks. And today's guest is going to help answer those questions. Shall we go when he speaks? Does he lead like he led before? And what are we to do? So I know you're going to be inspired by today's guest, her journey with God and what he has spoken to her. And so let's welcome Tamika Ellsworth. Hi, Tamika.
Hello, hello. Just thank you so much for having me on. You know, you've been such a great inspiration in my life. And so this is an honor to sit here and have this conversation with you.
Well, I'm just so glad that we can, Tamika. I want to share your story with others because I know it's so powerful hearing your story and seeing your journey in life as a young girl and now mom and all this wonderful stuff that's happened in your life. And so let's tell our listeners just a little bit about you and your family.
Yeah, no. Well, yes, you know me from a young lady. That is right. Not too far from being saved. I got saved in, well, we'll say, but just had an encounter. Let's just put it that way with the Lord in my early 20s. And so I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised, and had a major transition, which I'm sure we'll get into later on with regards to obedience. But yeah, grew up in the Bay Area. You know, I was one of those unicorns where I didn't grow up, in religion. I didn't know Jesus at all. And, was a part of a cult for a long time up until like probably about 14-ish or so. So my life was pretty much worldly. I didn't believe in God for the longest time because I was just so hurt by just religion and just this whole thought of the God, thought of God, and not believing that there could be something like God in my life. But yes, I guess that's probably a good place to start.
Now, meeting you were young before marriage, and now you have a family, a beautiful family,
yes,
and
yes,
and yeah, what? How many? Two girls.
I have two girls and my bonus son, Sean. So he's 21. Oh my gosh, yeah. So he's 21, and my oldest daughter is 14, and my youngest one is 9. Genesis and Eve, and their whole names have a story. It's such a God story. They're miracles. And then my husband Scott, we've been married now for it's going on 16 years.
Wow.
Just a really unconventional way that we got married and how God hooked that up. But yeah. That was just an amazing story in and of itself too.
Yeah, what a blessing. And Tamika, you have a business now? What are you doing?
Yeah, I do. So I've been in real estate now for over 20 years. I started off as a carpenter, and that's an amazing story on how obedience, starting in one.
I remember that. I remember when you were doing that. I remember when we met you, you were actually building a stage for a play.
Absolutely. And that's how actually I met your husband, like 100%. Yeah. And so we were doing, so I started in carpentry, and from there being obedient, doing something that I didn't even think would be anything with my future, I ended up getting into real estate. And it's been just a beautiful career and a beautiful testimony of how God can operate in the marketplace and ministry all in one. But yes, I've been in real estate since marketplace ministry for sure.
Yes.
So yes, been doing that for a while, and I did help start a real estate company in San Jose, California. I was there for over a decade. I was one of 6 founding realtors, and then recently, God kind of pulled me out and said, "I want you to start your own." And so, Red Bow Real Estate is the real estate company in which I started, and still going in California, and soon to be over here in Texas, expanding from California to Texas.
That's great. Now, I noticed in Red Bow, is that what it's called? Red Bow?
Yes, ma'am. Red
Yeah,
Bow
Red
Real
Bow.
Estate.
You actually have classes or gave classes. Are you still giving those classes?
Yes,
What do you title those classes?
yeah. So this even in hindsight, even with that, I mean, this is the whole process of even me doing these classes was again one of
Uh-huh.
obedience, and maybe we'll dig into that a deeper, but it's called faith in home buying.
Right.
And I was really perplexed at why Christians at that, during COVID, during, our shelter in place and stuff, are really moving to other places and stuff and saying, oh, I can't afford it over here. And they weren't moving because God told them to.
Right.
It was simply because, well, we can't afford it and we'll never be able to. And just the words that were coming from their mouth. And I'm like, wait a minute, where's the faith? And so
Right.
I just had to sit down with God and said, God, what can we do in order to like help perpetuate like the faith that people are supposed to have? He's like, well, they haven't been taught it. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, well then, so ultimately it came from me having a conversation with God and God saying, this is what I need you to do. All right, Lord, I have no clue how to do this and I've never seen it done before, but
Uh-huh.
I'll give classes on having faith in home buying and also
That's
the
awesome.
process of home buying. And hence over now, I mean, over 70 something people have already got into homes through faith in home buying. And at least, 700 or so people have went through the courses, and they're still happening over at the church, Vive Church, that I don't even attend there
Uh-huh.
anymore, but it's still going on, and it's advanced to even more investor classes and everything else. So
Wow.
it was extremely apostolic.
Mhm.
It's something that was just an idea and a thought because God said so.
But in obedience to it, look at the blessings, right? The blessings
I
that came as
know.
a result. And I
Yes.
love it because God is the same here, there, and everywhere. And
Yes.
that's one thing we need to understand. What he did here, he can do over there, and vice versa. He's with you and he's for you. And then I think that's just so awesome. But in 2000, you said you had a supernatural encounter with God. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that supernatural encounter.
Yeah, I did. I mean, the story goes, sometimes in life, God will send you back to people and to situations only when you're ready, right? When He said
Mm,
so, right? And being
right.
obedient to that. And long story short, someone did. You know who that is? I think yeah, you know who this is. But they came back into a situation, and pretty much for me. I was doing my thing out in the world, partying, drugs, you name it, I was doing it. But
Mm-hmm.
this individual, I had invited myself to church,
Mm-hmm.
and I
That's
did. Just
great.
I don't think it was a setup. It was a straight setup because honestly, I saw this individual. We were in the same lifestyle, struggling with
Uh-huh.
pansexual identity, just drugs, alcohol, but he wasn't doing the things that I typically would do with him in the world. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
this is weird. And
Uh-huh.
so I invited myself because I'm like, there's just no way that you're going to church now and like, what? You can't do you got what? So I did my thing and he ended up picking me up, going to church on that Sunday. And when I went, it was one of the most miraculous times in my life. And I wasn't even expecting it. I thought I was gonna honestly, you know, burst in flames coming into because I didn't believe in Jesus. I didn't believe in none of it. But Holy Spirit, right? Going in and long story short, I was really touched by the music, and there was a lady that was just singing in tongues and praying in tongues. I now know as tongues, but I was just so mesmerized at
Uh-huh.
what was happening. At the end, again, long story short, I remember, my friend had asked me, "Hey, do you want to come up to the front? Do you want to get prayer?" And I'm like, mm-mm. Even though I knew that the person he was a prophet and he was speaking some things at the time,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, how did he know? I honestly thought my friend had told him about me and he was
Mm-hmm.
just saying things and like this is just not okay, right? But I was about to leave the church, and as I was about to leave, my friend, he was like, "Are you sure you don't want to get prayer?" No, I'm okay. And so I go and like as I'm about to go out the door, something just kind of taps me and says, turn to the front. And when I turn to the front of the stage, I turn and I look and I catch eyes with a prophet. He says, "No, stop. God has a message for you. Please come up to the front so I can pray for you."
Wow.
And immediately my world shifted. I was identified by God because I knew I didn't know what I was doing, but I was really going through a path of rebellion and I was on my way to killing myself.
Mm.
The amount of stuff that I was doing,
Uh-huh.
only God knows, right? But
Right.
when he did that, I stopped in my tracks and he stopped what he was doing and he came and he prophetically spoke into my life. So I started to break down crying because I knew that, wait a minute, this isn't psychic stuff. He knew more things about me in here that said,
Right.
this has got to be God.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind and my internal thinking, I said, Jesus, I don't believe in you, but this feels real to me. But you have
Uh-huh.
to show me who you are. And if you do, I will follow you.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately as he's praying for me, he asked for it to pray for me. I'm sitting here crying. My arms actually end up getting raised. And
Uh-huh.
he didn't touch me at all. The power of God hit me so hard. I fell out under the power of God and I woke up like, what just happened? What just hit
Wow.
me? And that day was the day that uh, uh, when the Bible says like prophetic word when it comes forth, it's just the edification, but
Mm-hmm.
yet it can turn someone like myself into a
Mm-hmm.
believer and understanding like, wait a minute, what just happened? I became on a hunt for Jesus, and it was the most miraculous thing because the drug users, there's certain things that just I didn't want to do anymore
Right.
because my desire was like, wait a minute, I'm really searching for this other thing, but this is just kind of taking away, but this is really what I want. And I
Really.
figured out like, oh my gosh, the drug usage, all that stuff, that was just a replacement of what my
Yeah.
spirit really wanted, but it was
So
a counterfeit.
it wasn't because anybody told you you couldn't.
No, no,
Right.
no, it
That's the
absolutely
awesome
wasn't.
part. Right.
No, it wasn't. And I came as I was. The biggest thing I think I love the fact of how he captured my heart because from that time, I honestly I would run home to be in
Mm-hmm.
the presence of the Lord. I didn't understand what it was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even really open up my Bible a whole lot. It was just
Uh-huh.
sitting there, just listening and abiding and understanding and
Mm-hmm.
crying and but it was the presence of God was so thick in my room and it caused me and it drew me in so much and I
Uh-huh.
think I needed, not think, I know I needed it to be that way because of being with a cult before. I thought that was
Right.
real. And I was so
Uh-huh.
jaded by religion.
Yeah.
And when I was able to actually capture a hold and really have the essence and the tangible presence of God in my life, like that started to transform just my thought process, renewing my mind. Everything happened
Right.
all at once in a
Right.
different way.
It's
And
like a
no one pointing the fingers.
right
Yes,
deliverance and between you
yes,
and him, that deliverance between you and him.
100%.
And
It was that
that's
abiding. Yes,
right, right. When he's just
still to
speaking
this
to
day.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's such good news. And that's salvation. That's deliverance. That's him just touching you. And that's great because as you move on and you move forward, you're getting to know him and
Yep.
he gives you a vision now. He's giving you
Yes.
visions. He's giving you a vision. And
Yes.
tell us about a vision that he's given you that you want to share about and what resonated with you so that you can move forward with that vision. What did he speak
Exactly.
to you?
Since when I became a carpenter and then it turned to real estate
Mm-hmm.
and uh that was huge because he's taking me from glory to glory even in that capacity.
Right.
And when coming over here, when the Lord actually said, "Okay, I'm going to move you out of your home area into another area," it was like, "Oh wait, ooh, I've never done that before." And this whole family, husband, everything said, "Well, God, just bring the confirmation." A word of the Lord came forth, and I
Mm-hmm.
said, "All right." This was 3 years prior to even moving. I said, "Okay, God, I'm going to prepare. Just let me continue to prepare. I don't know what's
Uh-huh.
next, but
Uh-huh.
let me continue to prepare myself because I knew it had to do with the realm of home ownership, but I didn't know exactly how or real
Uh-huh.
estate. But I
Uh-huh.
knew he takes you from glory to glory. There's
Right.
always a progression of things. But let me be
Right.
obedient in this season so I can see it unfold, right?
Right.
So that being said, I knew I was going to expand my tents. I knew I was going to expand territory. I just didn't know the timing of it.
Right.
So when the timing had came, I said, "Okay, husband," and we were both in agreement to this. And when
Right.
we and it was more to expand not only ourselves and just real estate and business, but expand in also ministry as well and the different things that God had for us as a
Mm-hmm.
couple and just, transitionally over in a different state, which was
Uh-huh.
scary in and of itself because we had helped build in essence the church that we were in that they were only 6 months old and we helped build them. We were there for a decade, kingdom builders building, and didn't think we would be going anywhere. We were leaders in
Right.
the church,
Uh-huh.
our home, everything else. We didn't have a reason to leave.
You're planted, right?
Yes, we were planted, we were growing, and we
Uh-huh.
were thriving, or so we thought. So when God gave this vision and he put a stamp on it, because one of the individuals that I've known for a long time over in California had moved by obedience, move over to Texas, where he grew up and where his family land is. And he started developing the land and not knowing exactly why, but he just started to develop the land, do what he needed to do to put subdivisions and stuff. And he was just saying, all right, Lord, I feel like I'm building a Noah's Ark, but I just don't know what's about to happen. But I feel something's about to happen.
Right.
Long story short, 3 years later, he reaches out to me and says, hey, this is what I'm doing. Why don't you come and visit? Oh, that was a setup. So we come and we visit, and immediately we get the confirmation of knowing this is where we need to be in order to build, and also for Ministry Rise in order to build, because God said just go. He said go and build. Go and build.
So you actually did not know where you were going to go and build when you just heard his voice. So it reminds me of Abraham when he said go, and he went, not knowing. The Bible says not knowing where he was going. It's like, so today, so we can say today, we still can hear God the same, or he still speaks the same way.
Absolutely.
Go. And so with that in mind, how or what's in you that causes you to respond to him so confidently?
Yeah, it was also too, just spending time, right? Because even when we talked about even before, understanding the voice, because most would say, oh, I just talked to a friend about this. Yeah, I heard him say it and it confirmed by the pastor, but I'm not sure. I'm going to need another sign. And it's like, well, wait a minute. No, you hear him. He told you that. You need another confirmation. Just do it. But see, that's what he's looking for. He's looking for someone crazy enough to actually believe that God says this, even though it sounds like the world would be like, what are you doing? Will you do it? Because on the other end of that is obedience. And from there, it's a continual knowing that, God, I hear your voice, and the voice of a stranger I will not follow. So I know your voice and I'm going to go. So I think it's when you abide, when you're connected to the vine, you know that you know. And he had me doing some crazy things as I was a baby Christian. Just, I had money in my pocket to just give. What? Give it. Didn't know about how much it was. It's just so the small obedient little steps that he was taking me through, even from the time that I got, really radically transformed and had an encounter, up into the marriage, and even my marriage too, up into those type of things. And I saw that's where the little obedience that went to bigger, faith levels grew.
The faith level grows as and like Abraham, the Bible says that he staggered not at the promises of God through doubt, unbelief, but he was fully persuaded. He was actually fully persuaded that what God said, he was able to do. So that confidence comes, like you're saying. I'm hearing you say, it's those little things that I did, but then I realized I could trust him.
That right there, that is it. That is it. And I remember I told you, even preparing for this, I had, there was another, part to it when I was talking about Luke. But honestly, like the biggest thing that I see in my life, and if I could tell someone this and like really speak to this part, like when they talk about obedience being better than sacrifice, it sounds so like, okay, I've heard it before. I said, but no, you got to really think about it. When you're obedient to something that God has said, there's nothing attached to it, but because I love him, I'm going to do it. There's no questioning, of it. And because I trust him enough, and he's already carried me through, he's already given me the grace on my life. I'm already saved by grace. So he's done everything for me. So why wouldn't I? It's already his anyway. My house, my car, my money, my kids, it's already his anyway. Even though it looks like it's crazy for the world, that's the whole point. If it's a little bit opposite of what the world would say, even more so you should do it, because the trust and the reliance is on him, versus me saying, oh, I'm just going to sacrifice this. No, because why? Then I'm expecting something in return for that sacrifice. No. It's already been done. The sacrifice comes at the tail end of the obedience. You're already going to sacrifice something, but he's already done the greatest sacrifice anyway. So really be obedient to what he's asked you to do, because it's partnering with him. I don't want nothing from you, Lord, because I know you're already going to do it.
Right.
He has.
Right. It's done. It's trusting. Yes. It's just trusting and knowing and partnering with him, walking alongside him, knowing that, trusting that he's going to lead you the right way. He has your best interest in mind. And let me ask you, were there any challenges in all of this?
Of course.
Tell us about some of those challenges.
Well, see, first of all, in coming here to Texas, he said go. Okay, so we were faced now. So this is what most people are faced with, right? When he says go, he says it. It's been confirmed, right? But then all of a sudden you find out the home that you thought that you were going to get in the area, you can't get it. So husband and I were faced with a dilemma. Did he say it or did he not? But it's not going to, did he say it or did he not? Either God's a liar or we didn't hear correctly, you know? And so we had to keep going forward, even though that kind of, okay, all right, Lord, it doesn't matter. On the end of that, yes, it doesn't matter. So when we get here, the home is not finished being built, that we are going to the second property that was on, but actually the second property turned out to be better because it actually was more land, but God, right? However, it was not going to be finished until like maybe 6-7 months later. We had all types of things happening that just kept stopping the process from people building the home that was building it wrong, or other trades come. You could not imagine the horror of what we were dealing with and going through. And it could have easily had us turn back and say, well, obviously this is just not God.
Doubt, right?
Not going, doubting.
Yeah.
So continually back and forth, we had to continue to work as a couple. No, this is what God said. This is what he did. He's already confirmed this. We're going to keep going. Right. And upon keeping going, it built it more and more. So it didn't matter what was kind of thing. I said, God already said yes. And it got to a point where it's like, this is just funny. Like, really, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going forward because he said yes. And we eventually got into the home. But then, husband, even Scott losing his job, right when we closed, certain things ended up happening. Even with that job situation, loan situation, you name it, it happened. But we still kept going forward. Finally getting to the house, and then God says, all right, so you've only been here about a month. But I'm going to hit you with another one. I'm asking you to take a family in of 6 and in your house, and no questions asked. Huh? But we sacrificed all of this. I wasn't, do you trust me? I need you to do this. And so we did. And what we thought was supposed to be, 2-3 months ended up being about 10 months. Of them staying with us and them not working. And God said, look, this is what I want you to do. I want you to have them, give them your car to use for this season. And because that was paid off so that they can save money. I want you to, help with, them not paying any rent at all. But to help them come into a better position than they were when they first came here. And we were like, oh, yep, we're going to do this with gladness. And Lord, as long as you keep supplying on the end that we need, you're going to keep supplying everything else. And you did. Right. But again, most would look at it like, well, I sacrificed this, Lord, so what is in it for me? And it's like, no. And truth be told, we had to contend with attitudes that probably weren't the best. That in this whole process, but in the end, I believe God still had his way. We worked in that family as he worked in us. It's always a two-way street. And in the end, they did end up in a better position. They ended up getting a place as well. And God has their employment happening as well. So God in the end still had his way, still helped with 2 different families in order to help with character. And building them up.
There's so much that was going on, and he's preparing you for so much more. It's like, when Abraham got blessed as a result of his obedience, the blessing was only for him, but it was for others also. So we are blessed to be a blessing, and that's what I'm hearing. I'm blessed to be a blessing.
You know what?
Not just with my mouth, but with my actions.
See, okay, well, see, and that right there, honestly. You really have not understood the full totality of being a follower of Jesus, not just necessarily a Christian, but a follower of Jesus, until you literally, in Luke 6, when it talked about not even love your enemies, not necessarily enemies per se, but people that don't, or you may feel don't deserve something. Right. And, we picked apart that whole thing, and not to say about this family, but just in general. Right. If you're not willing to do things that are uncomfortable, right, to you, because God has asked you to, and you look at the situation where this person's not going to appreciate it, why should I do it? And he's literally saying, well, wait a minute, that's what the world would do. Right. If you're looking like me, you're different from the world. So
Yeah.
even more so, you showing love to those that may not even give it back or reciprocate
Right.
it back.
And the awesome thing is, like, what is responding to God? That's the awesome part, because what is he speaking to you? Because we know we don't have every
Mhm.
single person, but we do
Exactly.
what he's asking us to do.
Asking
And
us to
so
do.
what is he asking? What is he asking of me? And I think that it's great that, in obedience, there is blessing. And in that, it's automatic, it's a given.
Yeah.
And in that blessing, I'm blessed to be a blessing. And so
100%.
I mean, look at the fruit. I mean, look at the fruit. Look at Abraham. We're being blessed today as a result of his
That's
obedience,
right.
the choices that he
Exactly.
made. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is awesome to hear, that you are so able to confidently respond to God and continue to grow confident in your relationship with him, so that you can continue to be blessed and continue to be a blessing. He has so much for you, in store for you. And so I'd like you to share something with our listeners, Tamika, that will encourage them to move forward in obedience to God. What is it that you want to share with them?
Yeah, I can see that in my life, and now I'm in my 40s now, right? It took a little bit, every step, every step. But I say, my 20s were beautiful, 30s was beautiful. Everything it actually was when I really look back on it. And the one thing I could see, that what the devil tried to take from me, and being a rebellious person and being someone that didn't want to submit to anything, or didn't want to, believe in any rules, or, anything, right? How God literally restored and completely flipped that around, to me being, and the devil knew that if I could take that part away, I can control her in a whole lot of ways. But once God, when I finally understood, oh my goodness, wait a minute, God, you know more about me than I do myself. Why wouldn't I
Yeah.
listen to your direction in my life? I've been doing this thing all wrong anyway. And when I finally caught it, my life, and had just, it completely changed, from the decisions that I make, from the things that I think that I want, in my life. But it's turned out to be so much better. And I would encourage anyone going through, just in life, and having second thoughts on things that they may think and be wavering in. Like, I'm telling you, from someone that has done some interesting things inside of life, like, for instance, like going in and, faith in home buying actually came from me having the belief and the trust that God's going to give me my own house in a miraculous, level. No joke. It was a miracle.
Right,
I
right.
got the home that I got. And because I went ahead and I said, God, if you open up this door, I'm going to believe that you're going to give me a miracle of home ownership. And you're going to give it to me after, on the back of having 2 short sales. You're going to do it, and you're not going to do it in 7 years. You're not going to do it in 9 years. You're going to do it in 2 years, because you knew that we the way that we went about and had to lose these homes, we made a choice and a decision, because he said, let him go. And we were like, but God, let him
Mm-hmm.
go. I have
Mm-hmm.
something else for you. If we would have never done that, and most people in the world would think that that was the wrong thing to do. Oh, you have to make sure your credit is whatever,
Right.
that's not the typical thing that you would do. But upon that, a door opened up to new construction. We went for it. He opened up the doors, even after being denied 10 times by different
Mm-hmm.
lenders. He finally opened up the door, and that house has been a blessing to us. And the very, very thing that used for shame, and the devil wanted to use for shame,
Mm-hmm.
because I was a realtor at the time, still too. You lost 2
Mm-hmm.
homes, real
Mm-hmm.
estate. How could you help me? And in essence, I used that, and I said, no, that's a testimony. And I'm going to
Right.
show you, and I'm going to show everyone the miracle working power of God, and the fact that he turned something that was shame,
Right.
into a testimony and a
Right.
miracle, and affected people's lives. That being said, it doesn't matter what you're going through. I've been there, done that, lost it all. However, being obedient on Christ, he brought it back tenfold. And then not only that, brought people with me in order for them to gain, insight, and their faith level increased in the things that they would have never thought would be accomplished.
Sharing
So
the wisdom with others, sharing the wisdom with others. That
absolutely.
that that's
Going through it
awesome.
too.
Right.
Going
Right.
through it too. Going through the
Right.
process. I would never know that it was possible, right?
Right.
Unless I even went through the process.
See, he turns it all around. He turns it all.
100%.
I love it how he turns the shame. He turned that all around. Oh, I said, no,
All around.
this isn't about shame. This is what we're going to do with
Yes.
this.
Absolutely.
So
That's
that
100%.
that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, Tamika, how
Mm-hmm.
can people contact you if they're interested in purchasing, or even the courses that you have to offer? How can they connect with you?
Sure. Well, my Instagram is probably a really good way. It's really simple. It's at Tamika Ellsworth. They can also call me. My number is still a 408 number. It's a 408-561-7922. I do have a team out in California that does help. And we do take the approach, especially if you're looking for a home by faith, we take it by faith. And so there's a lot of ways that we go about doing things that are not traditionally done in our regular home ownership when we read a realtor, but we do like pray, and it's really important to hear from the Lord. It's really important to get your ducks in order, so when that miracle happens and when that door opens, you can run through it, and you don't have to delay. So that's another way. And then you can catch me on.
You can run through it, and you put a ribbon on it.
Yes, the red bow. Yes, the red bow ribbon, and that's exactly what we do. I mean, I love it. Like, man, it's the beautiful stories. I'm just the stories upon stories upon stories of people in home ownership. That if someone can believe for a house and a home, imagine what else they can believe for. Right. Some believe for babies afterwards. Their faith level was so high. They believed and they saw miracles literally happen before their eyes.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear what the Lord is doing in you and through you, and for others. And I'm so thankful that you came and you're sharing your testimony with us and sharing life with others and giving what you have to others. That's what I love. You're blessed to be a blessing. And that's so to our listeners, thank you. Contact Tamika. And I want to thank you for being with us. And I want you to just be encouraged moving forward that God is for you. So until next time, be it unto you according to the word of God.
Amen. Yeah, I really enjoyed those classes. Yeah, so this again, even the whole process of even